Hey everyone, Peace Eye here. Today I'm going to be showcasing my deck as requested by one of my subscribers. It's the deck I've been using basically to win the tournaments and different games and stuff and place for the past few weeks since I got back into it. Now it's a little outdated, so it's going to be a little bit slower. I have added some new cards, but I'm just going to go through it really quick. It's an Exodia deck, so I just learned that people that use Exodia are hated, but I still like it. I don't know why, but it's just seeing that first episode and Yugioh pull it on Kaiba, that was just great. So obviously the 5 cards of Exodia. Emissary of the Afterlife, I run 3 of these. I was actually able to win by life points by using this. It's a level 4 monster with 1600 attack power, and basically you can, when it is sent from the field to the graveyard, doesn't need to be by battle, by the way, you and your opponent both search for a level 3 or lower normal monster, and you put it into your hand from your deck, and then you shuffle your deck afterward. So that's pretty nice. It basically searches out Exodia pieces now that Sangan and Witch of the Black Forest are banned again. I run only 1 Royal Magical Library. Every time you or your opponent activates a spell card, this gets 1 counter. 3 counters, you can use its effect to discard them and draw 1 card. If I had more spell cards, I would use more than 1. But this one is more of a stall Exodia deck, so it's not really trying to draw as fast, it's really just trying to stall. Snipe Hunter, for blowing up my opponent's field. This deck does have some drawing power, and I use that drawing power in order to blow up my opponent's field, which is another way I can win by life points, because people don't really expect that to come. When you got a fat hand, you can afford to drop a few cards and take your chances and roll the die and blow up your opponent's field. You can even use Exodia pieces and send them to the graveyard, and then just use Backup Soldier, which basically brings 3 of the pieces back to your hand anyway. So that's pretty useful. Dandelion, this one is a newer card, and it's actually limited to 1, and I just found it in like a common box, so I added it to the deck. And it's pretty useful because anytime it's sent to the graveyard, you get 2 tokens on the field to actually protect you and your life points. Battle Fader, I've only been able to find 1 Battle Fader, so it's all I run. But basically you special summon it and it ends the battle phase, so more stalling, more just giving you an extra turn. This card I also found recently, Fortress Warrior. You don't receive any battle damage from battles with it, and it once per turn can't be destroyed by battle. So like that's an awesome way to defend your life points, and it works really well with the combination of that card and Ojama Trio, which I'll get to later. Wormlink's another new one that I've been using recently. It's a flip effects monster, and basically I think this card is pretty broken if you can manage to pull it off, because at the end of each turn you get to draw an extra card. So in your draw phase you're drawing a card, when your opponent goes you're drawing a card, and when your opponent ends you're drawing a card. So you're drawing, instead of 1 card per every 2 turns, you're drawing 3 cards every 2 turns. That's really broken. I've only been able to find 1 of those, but I think that's for the best. I mean, more than 1 is, I don't know. But I do run Laputa. This is similar to that one, except every time it's flip summoned, you get to draw a card, but once per turn you can flip it back face down. So every turn you're basically flipping it into attack mode and flipping it back down, and you're drawing an extra card for that card. And then last monster of the deck is Exodius, the Forbidden Lord. I found this in the common box, and I love this card. I haven't been able to pull off a combo that I wanted to pull off yet, but that I'll get into a little bit later. But basically, when you have this in your hand, you can special summon it and return any cards or any monster cards in your graveyard to your deck. So, well, you have to. That's the condition of it, of its special summon. So you return all the monster cards in your graveyard to your deck. So that includes all your Exodia pieces that might have accidentally gotten there. And then shuffle them in there. And then when this monster declares an attack, you search your deck or take a monster card from your hand. You take a monster and you put it in the graveyard. And then this card's attack is 1,000 times the number of normal monsters in your graveyard. So say you summon this and put all the monster cards back into the deck, and then you declare your attack, you go back into the deck, take one of those Exodia pieces, one of the limbs, the normal cards, put that in the graveyard, it automatically has 1,000 attack. It goes really well with the different combo that I have going. well, that I've seen on the internet, and I actually had the card for it, so I do run it. I've never been able to pull it off, only in simulations, but it's pretty awesome. But another condition of Exodius is the instant win condition. If you've got 5 different Exodia pieces in your graveyard that were sent there by this card's effect, like he declared an attack and sent that card there, you automatically win. So you don't need to win with Exodia in your hand for this deck only. You can also have it in your graveyard by that card. Alright, a brand new card I got is Pot of Duality. Basically lets you search the top 3 cards, or look at the 3 cards of your deck and see which one you want. You add it to your hand and then shuffle the rest, but you can't special summon for the rest of the turn. That's a really nice trade-off. It's basically like an upstart goblin that's a little beefed up. Instead of paying your opponent 1,000 life points, you just can't special summon, and you get to choose the card that you want. Here's the card that I was referring to about Exodius, Diffusion Wavemotion. You pay 1,000 life points, and any spellcaster level 7 or higher that you choose can and will attack all monsters on your opponent's side of the field that turn, and it's the only one that can attack, and effects by monsters that are destroyed by it are not activated. So basically the idea is to summon Exodius and basically set it up such that you can activate this card and attack as many of your opponent's monsters as possible to get as many Exodia pieces to the graveyard as possible. And if you have a card that I'll show you a little bit later, Ojama Trio, it's a lot easier, especially since they're low defense and they're summoned in defense. Next, I've got Upstart Goblin. I mean, you just basically it's a +0 to your hand, and you're just giving your opponent 1,000 life points to do that. It's limited to 1 now. A lot of decks that I see online have 3 because they're older. Shard of Greed. This is a new one that I found. I really liked it. You basically play it, and it works as a +1 to your hand later on. Every time you draw a card during your normal draw phase, this gets a counter, and then once it has 2 counters, you can send it away and draw 2 cards. So it's basically like a Pot of Greed, but delayed 2 turns, which is really nice. I do run Dark Hole because this can actually really save you when your opponent has a bunch of monsters that are going to destroy you next turn, and they've got nothing to defend them against the Dark Hole. This is super useful. So and it actually has come in handy. Like you can use a Wabaku or something to protect you 1 turn, and then the next turn you're completely screwed, but you draw Dark Hole and you're able to clear the field, which is really nice. And it also helps you with Emissary of the Afterlife. I run 2 magical mallets. Any more than that, and this is a -1 to your hand because you're shuffling your whole any cards that you choose in your hand into the deck, and then you're drawing that many back. So you're obviously not drawing 1 for magical mallet. So I try to limit the number of cards that will actually reduce my hand size. Scapegoat, this is another lifesaver, because when your opponent's attacking, they're going to have to attack 4 tokens to get to your life points, unless they have some other gimmick. Swords Revealing Light, this actually saved me a lot. Your opponent can attack for 3 of their turns, and this stays on the field, which is kind of annoying because you can destroy this with Mystical Space Typhoon, but it has come in handy a lot. And then another broken card, Messenger of Peace. This is crippled people. They wasted their Mystical Space Typhoons and effects on destroying my other cards that I have, like Level Limit Area B and Gravity Bind, and then they're stuck with this, which is even worse because any card with 1,500 attack or more can't attack while this card's on the field, and the cost is that I pay 100 life points every standby phase. So most of the time I'll be able to pay this no problem, and it's really useful. I should run more than just 1. And I've got a Level Limit Area B. This card, I had a rude awakening when I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I left before Pendulum Monsters, Synchro, and XYZ Monsters. XYZ Monsters have rank and not level, so this card doesn't affect them, and neither does Gravity Bind. Level Limit Area B takes level 4 monsters or higher and puts them in defense position so they can't attack, obviously. That's really nice with the Royal Magical Library. You summon Royal Magical Library, activate that, it switches to defense mode and gets a counter, so you're kind of protected next turn, and you still get to have the ability to use its effect. Gravity Bind is basically the trap version of the Level Limit Area B, except they don't change their position, they just can't attack. And the trap cards are basically for decks that I've faced, like I think it was a Silent Swordsman or something, and it wasn't affected by spells. That completely owned me that week. Continuing with the traps, we got 3 Wabokus. The ruling on this is that you don't take any battle damage and your monsters don't die from battle when you activate that, so definitely run 3 of those. That's basically 3 extra turns for you. Defense draw, this one hasn't really been helpful to me. I'm thinking of taking it out and subbing it for something else. Basically, it reduces the damage that you take from an attack. It doesn't negate the attack, so I think your monster still dies. It basically takes the battle damage that you would receive and it turns it to 0 and you get to draw a card. But there's a few conditions that basically need to be there. So you need to be able to be in a position to take damage. So you need to have like no monsters on the field and taking a direct attack, or you need to basically have a monster in attack position that's getting attacked by another monster. So you need to be receiving battle damage or some type of damage from another monster to your life points for this to activate. So it actually kind of slows it down, and thinking about it, I should really take it out. But Abyss Stingray, this is another one that I found recently. It's a trap card. You activate it and you get a monster that can't be destroyed by battle that has 1900 attack power. And it's also considered a trap. So I guess it's easier to destroy in that sense, but it can't be destroyed by battle, which is so useful in a stall deck. Just throw it in defense mode. Alright, here's the 2 Ojama Trio. You basically activate this and then hope... this is limited to 2, so that's why I don't have 3, because this card I feel is so broken. Even in today's really fast Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically, you summon 3 tokens to your opponent's side of the field in defense position, and they got 0 attack, 1000 defense. When they leave the field, your opponent takes 300 life points of damage. But here's the kicker. You can't tribute them or use them for any summonings or anything like that. So they're basically stuck there until I destroy them. Something that people don't notice is that they can just switch. Sometimes I leave my monsters in attack position for some reason, and they can just switch their tokens into attack position and basically commit suicide with them. Of course, they're going to take some damage, but they have to remember that they are facing an Exodia deck. I haven't had anyone try to actually kill their own tokens, but I've had people lose from the tokens on their side of the field, just basically destroying their deck because they only have 2 monster positions. Next, I've got 3 Recklessgreaves. So this card is kind of interesting. You kind of want to wait for it in your hand. It's kind of broken if you can get all 3, because you basically activate it and you can't draw for your next 2 draw phases, but you draw 2 cards. So if you chain a bunch of them together, then you still can't draw for just the next draw phases. It doesn't like compound, but you draw that many more cards. So if by some miracle, I've never done this, but if you have 3, you can activate all 3, and you draw 6 cards, but you can't draw for the next 2 draw phases, which is really awesome, and that can really give you a lead. And in tight situations, you can even use just 1 at a time, and it could end up helping you a lot. Final card in the deck is Backup Soldier. This is really useful if Exodius doesn't manage to get all of the cards into the graveyard. At least he took them out of the deck. You can Backup Soldier, bring them back into your hand, and you can go for a game that way. Also, Snipe Hunter, it's really useful. You can discard 3 Exodia pieces if you want, and then use Backup Soldier to bring back 3 of the limbs, and you can get game that way. Alright, now real quick, the side deck. I got Royal Magical Library, another one, just in case there's like heavy trap counters in my opponent's deck. I'll just take out all the traps and then just put spells. I got this new card, Gandor, the Dragon of Destruction. Basically, it's a tribute summon, and in this stall deck, I do tend to have monsters on the field because Waboku can protect them and whatnot. So once I summon this, I can banish everything on the field except for this card, and it gains 300 attack. I have done some simulations with this. I haven't like actually played it in the deck, but in the simulations, like it ended up having over 3,000 attack, and I was able to attack my opponent's life points directly, obviously, because all the other cards are gone. But at the end of the turn, it is destroyed, and you do have to pay half your life points for that. So I wouldn't really use this unless I had like a Battle Fader in my hand or something like that. But it's still pretty cool, and I think it would be really nice to pull it off on someone. I don't really know what kind of deck that goes into. Next, I got Magician of Faith. If I'm doing a heavier spell deck, then I'm going to want some of my spells to come back into my hand. But the current Yu-Gi-Oh! Game is just so fast that flip effect monsters rarely activate for me, so I kind of try to stop using them. This is really cool. It doesn't get destroyed by battle as well, but if it's ever targeted by a card, then it automatically gets destroyed, like a monster effect or a magic or trap card, or spell card, sorry, they changed it. But if this somehow manages to do battle damage, your opponent discards one card from their hand, which is really good. So, I mean, like, I don't know when I'd ever put this in the deck, but it's pretty good to have on the side. 3 Bubonic Vermins. It's a flip effect monster. This is basically obsolete 2. You search your deck for another Bubonic Vermin and then put it in face down defense position. So it not only thins out your deck, theoretically, but it also gives you a little bit more defense. And obviously, more than one effect can activate in one turn, so in one turn you can just set one Bubonic Vermin, and then they attack with one of their monsters, it summons the next one, attack with another one, it summons the next one, and then you've basically got one turning into 3. Tsukiyami is pretty good. It goes back to your hand at the end of the turn, which kind of sucks, but then again, that allows you to use it over and over and over again. To flip one of your opponent's monsters face down that's giving you trouble or something like that, or maybe activate a flip effect again. Dark Factory Mass Production, you can get 2 normal monsters from your graveyard. That's good support. I don't have another swords, but I got Nightmare Steel Cage, which is the second best thing. Extra Net is basically for the opponents that have a lot of summoning from their extra deck. You can draw a card. This will thin out your deck. Terraforming to get that Extra Net. Mystical Space Typhoon, if I've got a lot of opponent stuff that's really messing with me. A 3rd Magical Mallet, just in case. And a Negate Attack, which kind of sucks because they can just Mystical Space Typhoon it before they enter their battle phase, unlike Waboku, which is a lot better. But yeah, that's the full deck. It does decently nowadays, but not as well as I wanted to. I am going to make some changes to the deck, and then I'll do another profile once I get some wins. But I just want to share that with you because one of my subscribers asked me to. So there it is. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video and comment your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time.